Ahoy hoy folks, good morning, good afternoon and good evening wherever you are in the world. My name's Sean, aka Uncle Frogface, and welcome to today's video. If you're new here, then welcome. If you're not new, then welcome back. Today we are returning to ScrawlrBox. Yes, it is time for the Scrawler Challenge, which if you remember, if you've seen the last video where we unboxed the supplies, our challenge this month for May is Kaleidoscope. So, I have an idea for this. I had one idea, but it was very maths heavy, but I thought, who wants to do maths when they're creating art? Let's just have some fun. So, let's turn the camera around, remind ourselves what came in this month's box, and then I will show you the idea that I have. And here we are, here is the box. Let's remind ourselves what we have inside here. So we have, of course, our prompt says Kaleidoscope. We have these Ecoline Duo Tip pens, primary set of colours. We have our Copic, put my teeth back in. We have our Copic multi-liner in 1.0, so quite a thick one. We also have our Faber-Castell 2B pencil. 2B is my favourite hardness of pencil. And of course we have our mixed media paper, which last time, if you remember, if I show you this and pop all of this aside, might need that. But yes, we laid the colours on top of each other last time. There was quite a fair amount of bleeding and it was pilling up the paper awfully and wasn't great. Did a little bit of watercolour as well, which worked a little bit nicer. But actually, now that these are dry, it's dried really nicely. I'm actually very happy with it. So I think we're just going to use the pens as intended. So we'll use them as markers. Not going to worry about watercolour too much today, if at all. So the eagle-eyed among you, and you would have to be eagle-eyed for this, might notice this little sketch down here. So let me show you what I have. So this is my idea for today. So I actually want to build a three-dimensional layered picture. My idea for this came from actually having a kaleidoscope myself when I was a kid and looking through it for hours and loving all the patterns and stuff, and then taking it away and thinking my life outside the kaleidoscope was really boring and dull and not full of colour. So I love the illustration style of Quentin Blake, as most of you know. So my idea for this is to have a sky full of colours, slightly inspired by this, and then on top of that layer some elements that are just in black and white, using the Copic multi-liner to illustrate a little scene to go with it. So that is my idea. So as I said, I'm slightly inspired by this piece because these kind of remind me of fish. So I almost want to do like a school of fish flying. That's my kind of, that's what's in my head. That's what I'm aiming for. So for this, of course, I need a piece of paper. I need to sketch out some fish. I'm feeling fish of different sizes, some large ones and small ones, kind of making an S curve like this. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I want. So I have big ones concentrated in the middle, going out to smaller ones. We'll have them overlapping, just like in the piece of artwork for this month's ScrawlrBox, and that way when we colour them in, then we'll get some variation in colours as well. Then I can go along and do the illustration and cut that out and layer it up. Anyway, that is the plan for today. So let's get stuck into that and we'll see how we go. So we start by sketching in the pattern. So I say pattern and I say fish as well in a very loose way. So I'm going quite abstract on this, quite psychedelic. I'm using that same teardrop shape that was in the artwork that came in this month's ScrawlrBox, but I'm adding these little tails onto it as well, just to give it that little fishy vibe, like something flying through the air. And I quite like the way these are all lined up, but I feel like there could be more overlap. So a few circles, and then we're pretty much there with the design. this is where things start to fall down. So all I'm doing is colouring in with a water-based paint pen or a water-based ink pen, and as you can see, it's not going down great. It's patchy, you can't blend it. If I try to blend it, it's tearing up the paper. And I'm going one colour at a time so I can layer it up and get that overlap of colour as well. But it just doesn't look very nice. The yellow looks a little bit better, but I think that is because it's yellow. And I think a lot of this is down to the fact that these are transparent inks. As soon as we start mixing colours, like with that green there, they bleed into each other quite badly. And I don't want to spend 6 hours waiting for everything to dry between layers fully to come in and be able to do something like this. It's a quick piece of artwork. I want it to be nice and quick. So I thought, okay, maybe if I go over some of them again and try and blend in, that might help. But no, it just pulled up even more. So it's at this point that it is very clear and very easy for me to say, I really don't like these pens. They just do not do it for me. They don't lay down nicely. The colours don't blend nicely. They soak into the paper too much. They tear it up. They're just... oh, and this is not a case of the paper, because I've tried these on several other papers and it's the same every time. These are just not. They're just not for me. I'm going to try and rescue this. So I've got this abstract kind of group of fishy abstract shapes. Let's see what I can do. I tried adding dots. I tried outlining shapes a little bit more. There's just no clarity here. These are too... bleh. They're too... ugh. So, yeah, I'm now going to use the Copic multi-liner. I'm going to sketch out, use the liner to do some illustration, and try as much as possible to save this. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. But I'm not happy with this bit at all. But okay, it's time for Operation Fix This Picture. But before we do that, let's take a second to thank the patrons. Yes, that's right. The Uncle Frogfish Studio Patreon is now open with an exclusive Discord server, plus lots of other member benefits such as discounts on my Etsy store and Q&As and lots of other fun things. So if you'd like to support the channel, then head on over to Patreon using the link and subscribe. If Patreon's not your thing, but you'd still like to support the channel, then why don't you hit the subscribe button down below? It's a small thing, but it does massively, massively help the channel. Or even better, do both. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Yes, it's time for Operation Save This Picture, and I've kind of already lost enthusiasm for it just because I found it so frustrating so far. But I'm still going to forge ahead and do my best. So very quick sketch out. I really love sketching clouds. They're so much fun. I thought I'd put a hill in the background, and actually then thought I'm just going to cut it out of a separate sheet and actually layer them on top of each other. But this is the little character down here leaning against the tree, holding a kaleidoscope up to the sky, and of course, when everything is cut out, seeing those fantastical, wonderful shapes, well, fantastical, wonderful shapes in the sky. I enjoy inking, and this pen is a good pen to ink with. I'm going incredibly quick on this. This whole thing literally took me a couple of minutes. But again, I think it's just because I wanted to get it done and finished and swept under. I'd love to come back to this and maybe do it digitally rather than this to see how it turns out. But now we've got everything, it's just a case of cutting out and layering up. Okay, I've cut out the pieces, I have layered them up. This is the final piece for the Kaleidoscope Scrawler Challenge. Now, the actual Copic multi-liner, very nice. I like a Copic multi-liner, and this is no exception. Works exactly the same as all of the others. You can get a bit of line variation as well, even with it being quite a thick pen. The Faber-Castell pencil, great, love it. The paper, actually, for the marker and for the pencil, great. The downside for me for this box is the pens. I'm really sorry. So hate is a strong word, but I actually think I hate these. They just are not for me at all. I have used water-based markers a lot through Stabilo. I have used paint markers. I have used alcohol markers. Out of all of those, I think these are one of the worst pens I've used. I'm sorry to say. I feel like the concept for this is going somewhere, but honestly, by the time I got to actually doing the illustration, I was so not in it because of how much I dislike using these pens. So for the first time in a long time, I'm gonna say sorry, these are not for me. They are gonna go either in the very bottom of a drawer full of supplies or the bin, or I will donate them to someone because they're just not for me. However, we are now finished completely. The piece is done. It is what it is. I can breathe a sigh of relief. As always, I really hope you've enjoyed today's video, and until next time, goodbye.